DC removed Black Lives Matter Plaza, not just painted over, it's being torn up. It's like, damn, dude.
In D.C., city workers tearing up Black Lives Matter Plaza, permanently removing the massive BLM street mural that was.
I think this is a perfect demonstration of the fucking hollow, silly nature of this administration's actions. It's just like petty grievances being addressed in this way. Like, oh man, it's like it was a symbolic thing that the previous admin did. It was already performative, and now they're doing performative anti-wokeness. Liberals do performative wokeness. Republicans do performative anti-wokeness. Obviously, morally speaking, performative wokeness, given that it's a virtue signal, is still going to be better than performative anti-wokeness, which is vice signaling. But having said that, that's all this is. It's pure performance.
Painted outside on the street. Just
it's like Nancy Pelosi kneeling with a kente cloth, and then these guys turning around and basically sig heiling. The only problem there, of course, is that when you're doing performative anti-wokeness and you're doing performative vice signaling, it has a very different impact than performative wokeness. Performative wokeness, for the most part, simply makes the person engaging in the act feel better, feel like they're morally righteous. Performative anti-wokeness, on the other hand, does have a tendency to normalize really dangerous and really violent rhetoric, really violent ideas. Not saying that the destruction of the BLM Plaza is amplifying really dangerous and really really violent ideas. It's simply one aspect of this. I think that the aspect of this that is way more devastating is the actions being taken by the Trump administration. But that's all this is. It's just like, oh yeah, it's no different than telling Target they can't sell I don't know, gay pride flags on Pride Month or whatever.
North of the White House. Griff Jenkins is on the plaza now, which is north of H Street, just north of Lafayette Square, right in front of the White House. It's about 300, 400 yards away, just to give everybody the lay of the land. What are you seeing out there right now, Griff?
Yeah, John, good afternoon, and that's a good point. We are just steps from the White House. Actually, I'll just spin for just a second, Les. You can see, remember the St. John's Church, the center of the riots and protests of the BLM in the summer of 2020? Obviously, this here is where they erected this Black Lives Matter Plaza and painted on the street. But as you mentioned, it's not just being painted over, John. It's being torn up. Let me show you. We've just watched hours of a jackhammer tearing up some bollards that lined the street. They had lights on them. This is where the word matter was. The next block, lives, and the next block, black. So these crews are out here actually tearing up the bollards to begin tearing the entire street up. It says it's going to take them days to do this because of.
How are people happy with the BLM Plaza thing? Even racist? What do you get out of it? They imagine that like black people are triggered by this, not realizing that black people by and large are probably not surprised by this at all. And that it just gives them more of an opportunity to be like, we own them, we triggered them, you know? Like look at the glee demonstrated by Fox News for this otherwise like symbolic act of virtue signaling. They're like, oh, this is so sick. It's so dope. You didn't do shit. Okay. Oh my God. You destroyed this symbolic gesture that did not accompany any sort of serious, tangible legislative changes that were being made, demands being made by activists on the streets with mass protests. There's not really much to reverse because the liberals didn't do the actual tangible legislative changes. I think this call for the perspective of the largest commentator on the internet. What?
And so, and you can see, obviously, like there's a lot of people who are positive about this, right? Which is what's really important, right? I mean, whether this is happening or not doesn't really matter a whole lot to me. It's whether people are supporting it. And I think that people are supporting this in a mass amount, right? And so I think the reason why is that in the 2020 like BLM riots, there were a lot of people who were violent. They were looting stores. They were destroying property. They were not really protesting, right? These are violent, dangerous people doing this. And so because of that, average, everyday people don't want to live in a society where a group of people gets together and they burn down a building. This is true in every civilized country in the world. It's true in China, it's true in Russia, it's true in Europe, and it's true in, I don't know, like probably most places in South America too. Nobody wants to do that.
Not true in France.
So yeah, not so out there. Just say blacks. Well, no, I don't think it's that simple. There's nothing, no group.
Yeah, dude, people are celebrating this because of not because of white supremacist attitudes that they have, but because they were very upset about the ways in which black people were protesting. It wasn't just black people either; it was everybody protesting. Yeah, let's not focus on the demands that were being made and whether or not they were reasonable, and let's focus on the ways in which some of the major protests, out of like 90. I think it was like 95% that were not violent at all. They were mostly peaceful protests. And let's focus on the 5% that turned violent as a direct consequence of police brutality, considering that it was a police brutality protest. Of course, police being brutal created this kind of response. Anyway, yeah, I doubt that he would have a similar, maybe he'd have a similar take on Confederate statues being removed. I don't know.
People has a monopoly on doing like crazy.
Yeah, I mean, in the direct aftermath of the first BLM protest, like 54% of Americans thought burning down the Minneapolis police precinct was justified after George Floyd's death. So he wasn't even, I mean, he's not even entirely correct on that. That was a really unique moment where, you know, you had like racist white Americans who were just like, yeah, that makes sense. That's crazy.
Crazy, stupid shit like this. I think it's very reductive to say, oh, it's black people doing this whenever you have white people doing it with Teslas as well. Like, we literally just got done watching a video of that. So this whole idea of like, this is some kind of like.
Yeah, I am more interested in trying to figure out why people are this angry and this resentful. There might be, if you were to look at that, maybe you would find out that there is good reason for them to feel this way, even just a thought, you know?
Like race thing, it's just a waste of time, and it's not helping anybody.
New declaration by Khalil's attorney says says she filed his habeas petition while he was still held in New York City, but that federal authorities moved him to New Jersey within around 12 hours of a Saturday night arrest and moved him to Louisiana by midday Sunday. Yeah, guys, any day now, the removal of like Black Lives Matter from Black Lives Matter Plaza is going to make egg prices plummet. I promise. Don't look at the Dow. It's going to flick back up, dude. NASDAQ watch down 4%. Guess what, dude? Right after this is turned into like White Lives Matter Plaza or whatever the they want to do, I'm certain that this will turn around.
Of the amount of work, but they're ultimately going to return this entire 16th Street back to just a paved road. No, nothing painted in here. No Black Lives Matter, just a two-way either way, the way it was before the mural. It comes as we're seeing D.C. also clearing out those homeless encampments, and of course the effort to bring the federal workers back to work as well, and cracking down on crime, all a part of what President Trump calls making D.C. great again. John, we'll send it back to you.
All right, Griff Jenkins for us on the formerly named Black Lives Matter Plaza. They've gotten a long way to the demolition so far. Griff, thank you.
They're making D.C. great again, sir.
President Trump's new tariff threat. He sparked fears over the economy as he declined to rule out the possibility of a recession. We'll get the latest from the markets. Senior political correspondent Rachel Scott starts us off from the White House. Good morning, Rachel.
George, good morning to you. And the president hasn't.
Is this also why you hate liberals? Because even what they accomplish is performative? Yes, because liberal accomplishments are not real accomplishments when there's like a need for tangible change. It's simply a way to tell you like, all right, shut the up. We gave you something, you know, we kneel with the kente cloth. Like people are demanding very reasonable things to, for example, stop the disproportionate targeting and killing of black people in the hands of the police departments. That's perfectly valid, you know? That's perfectly valid. That's perfectly reasonable. And yet when the Democratic Party says, yeah, off, we're not going to do that, and then they turn around and just kneel with the kente cloth, they're just doing, you know, like an optics distraction to be like, what more do you want? We gave you what you wanted. My position on this is I don't give a if they wrote Black Lives Matter on the ground at Black Lives Matter Plaza. If they had done anything, if they had accomplished any of the demands, like redistribution of funds in localities back to like social programs and social safety nets that actually tackle crime rather than the explosive budgets of the police department, or implementing some accountability measures against police departments that are routinely in violation of civil rights in the localities that they work in. and they never actually made Black Lives Matter Plaza, I'd be happy. I don't give a shit about them painting a plaza, you know? Who cares? And I'm sure that many people would also agree with me on this. I guess maybe not liberals. Liberals would say, no, we want the performance. We don't want the actual legislative agenda to be fulfilled.
Insisted that Americans will be better off in the long run because of these tariffs, but he's also acknowledged there will be some economic pain when asked directly if it could lead to a recession. This
video popped up for me. You're in the Thumbo, and it explains the dynamic perfectly. It's quite good. No way, no how. Why the far right is always worse than the far left. Is it from the perspective of a liberal? I kind of want to watch it now. It's a small content creator, but it's getting a little bit of interest. This is 2 weeks ago. It's got 7,223 subs, but it is a unique premise, or one that I routinely talk about, but I would like to hear what he has to say.
He declined to rule it out. This morning, after a week of shaky markets and tariff whiplash, President Trump is hesitant to rule out a recession in 2025.
I hate to predict things like that. There is a period of transition because
if all Americans did not suffer from the immediate impact of these sorts of financial downturns, I would laugh at the fact that, like, what, 70 million Americans voted for this guy specifically because they were like, that's what Brandon is doing. And then he turns around and he's like, yeah, it might happen. It might happen to you. Like, because I am not a bloodless liberal, I can't sit here and enjoy the show. But it is kind of funny still. Like, these people that were like, we are voting for you to change the economy, sir, please, you are going to save us, are now sitting around and watching him go, the economy, what is the economy? I don't care. I don't care about the stock market. I don't care about the economy. Recessions are a normal part of the economic cycle. There's booms, there's busts. Sometimes it's booming, sometimes it's busting. I love to bust. I'm gonna bust right now thinking about the word tariff. Tariffs are the best bust of all time. No one has busted as hard as I do when the tariff word comes up. That's right. They're already making excuses. Wait, what? The egg situation and the economy in general. We're out of eggs because the Dems killed all the chickens. Eggs coming soon. Still no eggs? What a failure.
because what we're doing is very big. We're bringing wealth back to America.
But just days ago, the markets tumbled when Trump imposed a 25% tariff on goods from Canada and Mexico. The president quickly reversing course. Now Trump says he's planning for even more. A 25% tariff on all foreign steel and aluminum will take effect on Wednesday, and vowing to impose what he calls reciprocal tariffs on countries too.
April 2nd, it becomes all reciprocal. What they charge us, we charge them.
This morning, China's 10 to 15% retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods, including chicken, wheat, soybeans, and beef, now taking effect. Many economists warn the impact of tariffs will be passed down to consumers in the form of higher prices, but the president defending them.
Oh, I think the tariffs are going to be the greatest thing we've ever done as a country. It's going to make our country rich again.
The president also threatening hefty tariffs on Canadian dairy and lumber. The National Association of Home Builders says even a 25% tariff could increase the cost by $10,000 for a new single-family home. Dennis Woodruff owns a Maryland lumber yard and voted for Trump. He tells our Selena Wang his customers will pay the price.
I still support him. It's just going to be something all consumers have.
Dude, incredibly cucked. Levels of cuckening that I previously did not think could happen is happening right in front of our eyes, unfolding right in front of our eyes, chat. How amazing. Yeah, I'll still support him. He's single-handedly ruined my business, but I still support him. I'm sure he's doing it for some good reason. Sick, dude. Holy moly. They're in love. Yeah. I trust the plan, sir. The deep state pedophiles are going to be killed any day now. That's right. It's not great, but it feels like the libs are being owned. It's making me feel like libs are being owned. And honestly, that's what matters here.
Have to pay
Price.
I still support him. It's just going down.
The president has offered different reasons for the tariffs. His top economic advisor says it's all about forcing Canada and Mexico to crack down on fentanyl.
What happened was that we launched a drug war, not a trade war, and it was part of a negotiation to get Canada and Mexico to stop shipping fentanyl across our borders.
Less than 1% of fentanyl seized last year came from Canada. Mexico's president says they've seen a 40% drop at the beginning of the year. Democrats who have struggled to take on the president, blasting Trump's policies and trying to zero in on the economy.
They're destroying the economy, and they're making it harder and harder for Americans to afford things. That's where we need to keep the focus.
It will be a busy week here in Washington. The government is set to shut down on Friday unless lawmakers can reach a deal. House Republicans released their plan. House Democrats are opposed. It's unclear what Senate Democrats will do, but the president asked directly if there will be a shutdown. He didn't rule that out either, Robin.
All right. Our thanks to you, Rachel.